Good morning, beloveds. So, the signs of spring are, well, I mean, let's be honest. Spring started in March here because my friends in Colorado are still alternating between snow and beautiful days. But this morning, on the walk, there's this one. Okay, so there's this tree that I'm obsessed with, just because, and I tend to take pictures of it fairly frequently. So over the year and a half or 2 years, maybe I think it's been 2 years now, when I discovered this tree, I've gotten some interesting pictures of it through the seasons. But next to it is this magnolia tree, and today that magnolia tree is full of blossoms, and a bunch of them were open, and you could smell that tree today. So it was like, well, there's that magnolia scent. And then I was coming around the corner where it's a pine tree, and it's a nice, tall, beautiful pine tree. And it had this gorgeous crop of jasmine growing up it. And at first we thought it had survived the devastation, and then we realized that it hadn't. But there are still patches on it that are alive and well, and so you could smell the jasmine. So this morning I smelled both magnolia and jasmine, the real thing. So, the birds were a little quiet today, but the weather was interesting. It was cool because it was like 60 degrees and muggy. How is it cool and muggy? I don't understand, but it is. So, that was my Monday morning. Hope yours is going just as fantastically well. But it is April 26th, and our title is Peace is Mine This Day, for there is nothing to fight. There is only God to realize. The Bible quote is, "And deliver us from evil," from Matthew 6:13. I am delivered from all my difficulties, for God in me is my deliverance. Infinite mind knows no restrictions, and I, as its representative on earth, am now free, whole, and at peace. My consciousness controls my world, and I refuse to think evil. I think truth, and thus truth controls my world. Peace is mine this day, for in my thought there is nothing to fight. There is only God to realize. I love to contemplate the things of the Spirit. As I steadfastly think of God and His heaven, I forget that evil has ever been, is now, or ever could be. I see that truth alone prevails and love alone heals. I speak the truth and am healed by divine love. I am radiant with joy, for never again shall error fool me, nor human opinion ensnare me. I am spirit, and I think in spiritual terms. I am the expression of divine intelligence, and all my thinking is geared to this premise. The unreality of evil is true, and I accept this. I no longer seek it or use it as an excuse for my own failure to see the good. God didn't make evil, and I refuse to believe in it or in any power ascribed to it. The whole world is my friend. Cooperation greets me wherever I go. All people help me, and all situations bless me. I am delivered from all negation. The action of God taking place in my affairs today eliminates and prevents evil from appearing. It has no power and no reality, and I see only God in myself and my affairs. My salvation is of God, for His mind is mine to use for the glory of good and the furtherance of peace. I walk in wisdom, born of spirit forevermore. These gentlemen, I was about to call them boys, these gentlemen do not play. They are like, all right, here it is. And honestly, I read these things, and sometimes it's a little hard because I'm like, oh my God, if I could believe this 100% of the time, then my world would look completely different. But I'm dealing with nearly 50 years of conditioning. So here's what I'm going to say is I'm trying not to beat myself up for not being able to do this 100% of the time. Because like I said, I'm dealing with almost 50 years of conditioning. So it's like every day I read this and I chip a little bit more away from the conditioning. I chip a little bit more. And every day it's easier to believe. And that's the purpose of spiritual practice. The spiritual practice is to, one, recognize who we are, to go to that place where we meet the unfiltered God. And two, it's to chip away at the conditioning, to chip away what we have been told, up to and including that evil is a power in and of itself, which is not what Ernest teaches. What Ernest teaches evil is a misuse of the law, which is why in here he says the unreality of evil is true and I accept this. I no longer seek it or use it as an excuse for my own failure to see the good. Basically, Ernest is saying, all right, we've screwed up and we've screwed up a lot, but we can stop that, and we can stop it now, because now we are going to focus on the good. We're going to focus on the God. We're going to focus on the Spirit. We're going to focus on who we really are, which is Spirit. And right there in the beginning, he says, and I as its representative on earth. We represent God because we are God in action. We are God in expression. We are God expressing in the material plane. So evil isn't a power. What evil is us misusing. And we misuse it for a variety of reasons, up to and including that conditioning that I was talking about. We've been told to do it this way. Even in our gut, and even when in our gut we knew, no, that's not right. But we were told to do it, and we were like, well, all right then, you know more than me. And until we go, this is not working for me. So we unconsciously use it. We've been conditioned to use it. Sometimes we make choices that we're not proud of, and honestly, we just didn't know any better. And then Maya Angelou pops into our head and goes, well, we did the best we could until we knew better. And then when we knew better, we did better. And so that's what he's getting at here. So peace is mine this day, for there is nothing to fight. And that's one of the things. And if you go back and look at the psychology of the words we use, why did the war on drugs fail? Because we went to war. We were fighting it. And they say what you fight, what you resist persists. And so when we turned the tables and stopped fighting drugs, but started to heal the people that were having the problems, it worked better. So language matters, psychology matters. So peace is mine this day, for there is nothing to fight. When I stop fighting and I turn, and here's where we can use that Jesus quote, and I turn the other cheek. So it's like, this is the problem, but I'm going to focus over here because this is the solution. I am actively working on the solution. That is where my energy is going. That is where my power is going. That is where my attention is going. I'm not giving my power to the problem anymore. And the problem is going to go away because I'm working on the solution. There is only God to realize. All right. So I am delivered from all my difficulties, for God in me is my deliverance. That's where all of the solutions are. 99.9% of the problems that we have, we already have the solution. We may not be aware of it. So we have to stop and focus and listen. Because the solution's going to come from, it might just randomly pop into our head. It might be something that we see. It might be something that we read. It might be a conversation that we have. But the solution already exists. The solution already exists. Infinite mind knows no restrictions. And I, as its representative on earth, am now free, whole, and at peace. My consciousness controls my world, and I refuse to think evil. And that is, again, psychology. When you look for the good, you see the good. When you look for the evil, you see the evil. I'm not saying that we are ignoring things that aren't working. But what we are doing is focusing on the solution to what's not working. All right? We're also taking the power away from, because that's a misuse. That's a misuse. And so we are focused on using it correctly. I think truth, and thus truth controls my world. I think solutions. I think love. I think kindness. I think compassion. That is what is controlling my world, is compassion. I want to have a compassionate response to whatever it is that is in my face. Peace is mine this day for my thought, for in my thought there is nothing to fight. There is only God to realize. Your first response is your conditioned response. Your second response is who you really are. So bear that in mind. When you come face to face with a situation, whatever it is, your first response was conditioned. It is what you are taught. Your second response, that immediate second thought that falls on the heels of the first one, that's who you really are. So give yourself, I'm not going to say give yourself a pass, but forgive yourself for your first response if you're not proud of your first response. Because your first response isn't necessarily who you are. It is who you've been conditioned to be. So if you have been doing your work, your first response is who you are. But if you haven't been doing your work, or it's just one of those areas that you haven't gotten to yet, forgive yourself and look at your second response. I love to contemplate the things of spirit. As I steadfastly think of God and God's heaven, I forget that evil ever has been, is now, or ever could be. Because I realize what evil is. Nothing. No thing. It is a misuse of power. It is not a power in and of itself. I see that truth alone prevails and love alone heals. Truth prevails, love heals. I speak the truth and am healed by divine love. Well, what is the truth? That we're children of God. If we're children of God, then we have access to the divine love. If we have access to the divine love, then we're made of the divine love. Then we're worthy of healing. We've always been worthy of healing. We've always been worthy of whatever healing it is that we are seeking, be it mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever. We've always been worthy of it. We've also always had access to that divine love. We needed to see the truth. And the truth is who you are. And you are a representative of God on earth. You are made of God's stuff. You are, as Reverend Jesse likes to say, a godling. Like a sapling. You're growing into who you are. I speak the truth and am healed by divine love. I am radiant with joy, for never again shall error fool me, nor human opinion ensnare me. Human opinions ensnare me. It really doesn't matter what other people think. It does not matter. And that's one of the graces that you will learn, that I've learned. Am I always? No, but I will never do anything to hurt somebody's feelings, but I really don't care what they think. And when you get to that point, when you care about people without caring about what they think about you, it's very, very freeing. It's very, very freeing. Am I that way all the time? No. But there are a number of situations that I have walked into, looked around and gone, yeah, no, and walk right back out. Because I don't care. I care about the people, but I don't care about what they think about me. And if they're in there being, we'll use the word conditioned, then I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to move on into a situation, and when they're ready, I'll be back. I'll be back. Kind of like the Terminator. Pardon me as I date myself. I am spirit, and I think in spiritual terms. Elevate your thinking. Think above the material. Think in the divine. And that means to think with love, kindness, and compassion. I am the expression of divine intelligence, and all my thinking is geared to this premise. So, I am an expression of the divine intelligence. That means I have access to the divine intelligence. You are an expression of that divine intelligence. You also have access to all of that. All the time, anytime. All you have to do is go there. Go to that place where you meet the unfiltered God. The unreality of evil is true, and I accept this. I no longer seek it or use it as an excuse for my own failure to see the good. God didn't make evil, and I refuse to believe in it or in any power ascribed to it. It is simply a misuse. When we know better, we do better. And we're here to learn. And we're here to learn. And we're here to chip away that conditioning slowly but surely. The whole world is my friend. Cooperation greets me wherever I go. All people help me, and all situations bless me. I am delivered from all negation. So when you are walking out into the world, that's a series of power statements. Do I feel that way all the time? No. Do I feel that way more often than not? Yes. I've done my work. And I'm willing to let people be who they are. And I'm willing to see them as children of God. And I'm willing to hold that space for them. And I'm also willing to walk away from a situation where it's not healthy for either one of us. I like to think that for the most part I bring out the best in people, and then there are people that I just don't. And there's no point in torturing both me and them by trying. Those are situations where I'm like, okay, you are a child of God, I am a child of God. We are not healthy together. I'm going to go over here. I am going to go over here. And somebody is going to walk into your life that is going to see you as a child of God. You are going to see them as a child of God, and it's going to work a whole lot better. I'm not going to force myself on you if I'm not healthy for you. And that's part of that cooperation. Part of that cooperation is being willing to see, yep, this isn't working. I'm going to go over here. It's okay. I love you. I hold you in that spirit. I see you as a child of God, but I understand this isn't working. The action, I'm not going to force it. The action of God taking place in my affairs today eliminates and prevents evil from appearing. Because I'm going to focus on the good. I'm going to focus on those qualities of God. I'm going to use those responses, not the reactions, the responses. It has no power and no reality, and I see only God in myself and my affairs. Can you look in the mirror and see God looking back at you? That is something that I ask. And it took me a while. It took me a while to look in the mirror and see God looking back at me. Sometimes it's easier. Actually, frequently, there are a whole lot of people in your life. You can look in their eyes and you can see God looking back at them, or at you, with love. Not that judgmental nonsense of the accountant in the sky. That's not what I'm talking about. It can take a while until you can look in your own eyes and see God looking back at you. And then there are difficult people in your life that you're going, you want me to look in their eyes and see God? No. Yes. I want you to see them as a child of God. I want you to see you as a child of God. When you see only God around you, it changes how you move through the world. It changes how you respond to the world. And that's one of the biggest things, is it changes you to responding to the world instead of reacting to the world. And the difference between that is intention. Reaction is done without thought. Response is done with thought. Now sometimes it's a fast one, but it's a thought, and it is an intentional response, not a reaction. My salvation is of God, for God's mind is mine to use for the glory of good and the furtherance of peace. The same mind that made us is the mind that we use, which means we have access, which means the solution is already there. We just have to be willing to see it and to hear it. I walk in wisdom, born of spirit forevermore. So we walk in wisdom, born of spirit, always. There's no beginning or end to spirit. There's no beginning or end to wisdom. There's no beginning or end to you. There isn't. There is to this material existence, this material manifestation. But what we are born from and what we go back to isn't bound by time. And therefore, we always have access. And we have access beyond what we have been willing to believe up to this point. So your mission today, our mission today, should we choose to accept it, and I got one for you because I love it, is to know that we are representatives on earth of that infinite mind. And to be, to feel, to know that we are free, whole, and at peace all the time. Even when it doesn't feel like it. Even when it doesn't feel like it. But that's who we are. To recognize that we are children of God. And I have said it frequently recently. Don't tell me about your God. Show me your God. Show me with your words. Show me with your actions. Show me with the things that you do. Show me who your God is. And I hope that you see through me that my God is a God of love, a God of creativity, a God of joy, a God of happiness, a God of peace. That's who I want to be a representative of. That's who I want to emulate and to show. All right, beloveds. So, in that vein, I'm going to ask you, as I always do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself, whatever it is. Whatever it is. The more loving, kind, and compassionate you are with yourself, because you are a godling, you are a child of God. You are a beloved child of God in whom God is well pleased. You deserve that loving, kind, compassion from yourself. And the more you practice it on this yourself, the more you have to share with others. That's the way it works. That is the way it works. So please do something to engage your mind and your body. Drink some water. Go get some sunlight first thing in the morning on your face. Is a fantastic way to really reset your day, to get that energy flowing. I mean, it does reset your hormones, literally. There's science. There is science. And look into your eyes and see God looking back at you, and see that God loving you. See God loving you, so that you can look at others and love them just as they are, and still recognize them as a child of God. Hold that space for them to be who they are. All right, beloveds? It's a lot to ask, and it's nothing to ask, because all I'm asking you to be is who you really are. That's it. Your authentic self. A child of God. So open the windows of your soul. Allow that breath of heaven to remind you. You do live in heaven now. It is all around you, constantly, just waiting for you to see it. All right, beloveds? Do what you need to do to have a fantastic day. It is Monday, so there is a book study. I think it starts at 6 p.m. Central Time. It's done on the East Coast with practitioner John Rennie. So if you're interested in that, email info@creativelife.org to get that information to do that book study. I think they're still on Divine Audacity. I haven't heard them changing yet. Reverend David will be on Facebook Live around 5 p.m. with you. I will be back on Facebook Live with you at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And the Sunday service was awesome. So if you missed it, you can catch it either right here on Facebook, just scroll back on the videos a little bit, or Creative Life Spiritual Center YouTube channel. The only difference between the YouTube and the Facebook is the music. I can't put the music on YouTube. So that's the difference. So you just want to hear the talks, that's where it is. Otherwise, you want to hear the music, which our musicians are fantastic, check us out on Facebook. All right? And on YouTube, they're sorted into playlists to make them easier to find. And these talks are archived on the Running Rev YouTube channel, the Running Rev Ryan YouTube channel. So if you want to catch up on those, that's where you go. All right, beloveds, have a wonderful day.